Okay, welcome to Secret Leaders. If you're new to the channel, I'm Dan.
I'm Chris.
And we're here to talk to awesome entrepreneurs. We talk about amazing businesses. And we also try and tell the real story as we're going through our own businesses. We run separate businesses. I run a company called Heights. Chris?
I'm in transition at the moment, but I've just started a new company called the Creator Academy. So we're seeing how that's going at the moment.
It's going bloody well, is how it's going.
It's not going badly.
Yeah. And I think like a reflective point here. So 2020... January the 5th, so around about the time that this is coming out, this week anyway, 5 years ago, I launched my company Heights. And so we're just going into our 5th year. And I was actually just at lunch with Chris and I was telling him how at the beginning of the year, one of my goals for 2024 was to fall in love with my business again. And that is because in 2023, I had a really hard year. Like everything just felt hard and went wrong and wasn't good. And we weren't growing. And it was just a grind.
And yet you like 3x'd last year in the end.
Yeah, in the end. But 2023 was rubbish. And January 2024 was rubbish. And I started the year feeling rubbish. I started the year feeling just quite down about stuff and really like I need this to work this year. I think what's important to say is I was very much in a place last January, a very different place to where I'm at now. Right now I feel full of hope, gratitude, super excited about what the year will bring for me in my life and across my businesses as well. But I wasn't in that place last year. And so if you're listening to this episode, you might be in one or two places. You might be in a challenging place like I was last year, or you might be in a more positive place like I am this year. And I think it's a good reflection on entrepreneurship, isn't it? It's like constantly year by year, January by January, up or down. It's never the same.
I can happily say like I've been an entrepreneur now for 16 years, a variety of different companies over 16 years. And I would say that out of those 16 years, probably 13, 14 of them felt exhausting and brutal. Maybe two of them, one of them was good and one was great. And I think that that's like context is really important when you are an entrepreneur. It's like very difficult to have consistently good years. And obviously I'm off the back of probably one of the first and best years of my entrepreneurial life, 16 years in. Whereas the rest, I ended those years so beat down, so exhausted, so much being like, am I really an entrepreneur? Am I going to keep doing this? Like, is this thing that I'm doing worth doing? And I think the thing we don't speak about a lot of the time is that unless you really make it as an entrepreneur, often you're not actually paid that much. And so you're running these companies, everyone thinks you're super successful, but you actually don't make much money.
Yeah.
And so I think to like everyone who's watching the show, like I hope that we're able to help people make good decisions about the business they want to create in the future. So,
and we're going to talk a little bit about that today, like what businesses we actually would want to start if we were starting today.
Yeah. So if you were starting a business today, what would you do?
Yeah, it's a good question because I think when I started Heights, the reason that I ended up starting that business was I'd gone through my own personal experience of insomnia and chronic anxiety and just crippling mental health problems that I felt like I couldn't live with. And when I found a solution for them, was reading up on the science around it and all this stuff, I felt genuinely like a calling. You know, I finally felt like there was something that mattered to me that I made that was so focused on overcoming a personal challenge and knowing that there was a solution on the other side and knowing that I had some relevant skills that I could package together to turn it into a business. I think that's still so important. So, you know, I started Heights technically in 2019. I started writing this newsletter, and in January 2020, we launched. And what got me through 2023?
5 years.
This will be the 5th year, yeah.
Wow.
And what got me through 2023, a really tough year, where I had to fire half my team and everything went to shit, was a sense of purpose, was a sense that like I still care about what I'm doing. And I still care every day if we're helping some people. I still care about our customers. And nothing went our way in 2023 at all. We got like hit with fines and just all sorts of stuff went wrong, like everywhere. The only thing that really got me through that was just I still loved the core purpose of why I'd started this business and what I was doing. So knowing that for most, especially consumer businesses, but most businesses, you're in it for like a decade at least, typically. So knowing that that's going to be the case, can you start a business that you will still care about in 10 years? That's very hard. Like most people don't know how to answer that question properly. And a lot of people start businesses on fads, right? I've been guilty of it myself, which is, I'm interested in this thing today, so I'll just start a business out of it. And it's like, yeah, cool. But will you still be interested in that in 2 years when it's hard, or will you have moved on from the fad?
Yeah.
So then I guess the question is like, what am I really interested in today? And arguably, I'm really fascinated. I think all parents go through this. I'm interested in what education looks like, the future of education for young kids. I don't have any good answers to that question, by the way, at all. Like, I'm not an expert in this. I'm learning a lot from other people. But I think that education is probably the space that's going to go through one of the most forced transitional experiences of our lifetime. Because there's always been this this long-standing belief, which is so poignant, which is our education system was designed by 19th century people being taught by 20th century professors to 21st century kids. So it's like so archaic. And the difference now is that AI, GPT, etc., will just force kids in a classroom with a smartphone to outthink their teachers. Like, the teachers and the curriculum is not going to control how kids access technology. That moment has gone. So it isn't about what's in textbooks. So I guess all of this is to say what kids are learning, how they're interacting with smartphones, how we protect their mental health and breed the next generation of healthy people in society, I think is what I find so fascinating. I'd find a way to build in that space. If I wasn't doing heights, I'd find my way in that space because it's the question that I know could sustain me over a decade.
Interesting.
What about yourself?
I think like so many people don't have that moment where they're like, wow, I have a business that I'm so passionate about that this is going to like change and conquer the world.
Most people don't, right?
Most people don't.
Yeah.
And I think to the vast majority of entrepreneurs that I speak to who are more attuned to that relate more to the thing, which is I want to work for myself. I want to have a disproportionately good outcome for myself. I want to make a lot of money. And in this country especially, we're not that au fait with people saying, I want to make a lot of money.
Nope.
I would say to all of those people, my key takeaways from all my years of work, if I was to start a business now, the thing I would focus on more is margin, like ease of scalability. Because you know this from being a product business, like scaling your business is kind of nice on the front end, but operationally hard on the back end because you're delivering, putting together ingredients, packaging product and sending it out. And for so many businesses, I often think to myself, wow, I would not want to run that. Like I met someone the other day when I was on holiday, and this is so funny. Like he literally just came up and we were chatting away and he was like, yeah, I own this food business. It's frozen. We deliver frozen chicken. And I was like, wow, who is this guy? And then he was like, yeah, so we did 120 million last year in turnover. I was like, fucking hell. But like, I was thinking to myself, my God, I wouldn't want to run that business.
No.
Like the operations behind it. So my advice is focus and think very, very hard about the sort of scaled version of the product. And because if you can think to yourself, I can achieve X margin and X scalability on this thing, then I often think that's a great way of thinking. And if you can be passionate about business, often doesn't matter what the true change the world passion is. Because I've done lots of variety of businesses, right? And I'm on a new one now that I remember designing on a piece of paper, not because I was like brutally passionate about it, but because I wanted it to be a brutally efficient business, which is infinitely scalable product, like no angst with scalability, and then the ability to always achieve a good margin. And so I think we don't teach that when we talk about business. We often teach like, be passionate about problem, but like, how about like be passionate about your outcome? You know, like I think the thing I'm truly passionate about is spending time with friends and family.
Yeah.
And so like all the thing I do at work is just to provide myself the ability to do the latter thing.
Well, and also, you know, you're a classic entrepreneur in that, yes, you do want to design more 4-hour work week, so lifestyle, but not 0 hour. You'd be bored stiff if you were just hanging out with friends and family. You need a bit of something to go after, like all entrepreneurs do.
Yeah, and I think like my book focuses on that conundrum a lot, which is I definitely am not preaching the 4-hour work week, but I do think that like Tim Ferriss and what he said is genius about the fact that we all prioritize the wrong thing in our lives. Like I know so many people who really don't need to work as hard as they work because they've got loads of money. So why are they doing it? So I think you should be intentional about, I'm going to work this amount of my life, I'm going to enjoy this amount, and I'm going to make some rules and some intentions about my free time. And that will take up time. You know, whereas a lot of people get to the weekend and they're a bit empty on what to do. So I would just say, like, you will never regret sitting down in a room with a piece of paper and just thinking about the perfect, brilliant outcome for yourself, because it will force you to think, wouldn't it be amazing if I had a business that made X a year and took X time a year?
Yeah, but then saying that is so simplistic that you'll just get some people listening to this and being like, great, I'll write down a piece of paper. I'd like to get to £10 million next year.
I'd say, do you need 10 million?
Managing international money used to drive me crazy until I found Wise Business, the account for doing business in other currencies. I can hold money in different currencies and only convert when the rates are good. No more rushing to exchange at bad rates or losing money on outrageous fees. And my team handles all the payments themselves. I don't have to micromanage anything. They have their own logins, set their own limits, and I just keep an eye on things from my phone. One simple account lets you pay and get paid in over 40 currencies. There's no hidden fees, no marked up exchange rates, and it connects right to your accounting software. Whether you're paying vendors or suppliers in Europe or you're getting paid from Australia, it's all just easy. And that's what I love about Wise. It just takes this complicated thing and it makes it really simple. Your money's always secure with 24/7 protection, and you can see exactly where everything is in real time. To learn more about how you can use Wise Business to save time, money, and stress, visit wise.com/business. No, but I'm trying to say, can you give a bit more structure to what you're saying? Because otherwise you'll get some really stupid answers. Do you know what I mean? As in, what is a practical way of doing this?
Well, I'd say business generally, if you're achieving above a 25% profit margin, I would say those are the sorts of businesses I'd start to look at.
Right.
So you have to really study what's out there. You think to yourself, if I want to scale my business, maybe it has to be more like a digital product as opposed to physical product, because a digital product can be scaled and delivered to hundreds and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people without operationally increasing my team massively. If you're smart about the way you think about AI, you think customer service has changed fundamentally in the last few years. I can build a chatbot that is better and more efficient than a whole customer service team. And so you think to yourself, okay, I can kind of put those two ideas together. And then you think, where does my marketing and distribution come from? Can I build a product that naturally markets itself? So you think about viral loops before you build the product. And so if you sit down on a piece of paper and write that, then you start thinking, okay, out of all the businesses I could build, I know I can't build these ones. And so you start thinking, okay, I can start looking at these ones that I can build. That, honestly, I went away after I left Lottie and said, what are the businesses I can build? What are the businesses that will serve me the most? And that's the exact exercise I did. And I found 4 or 5 models, and eventually I ran with one.
Because I think what is important is, we've both got experience in building different kinds of businesses. And actually, for people to build a business like Heights, most businesses like Heights actually come from a pretty dark, difficult place. Mine came from my lowest place, right? Insomnia, chronic anxiety. You don't wish that stuff on anyone.
No.
And you are forced to find a solution out of it. And so to your point, most businesses don't focus around a big solution and a purpose like that, because most people don't actually have to go through that much suffering.
Yeah.
Some people come from a good place and they do exactly what you've said, which is wanting to design a product or service that's going to give them an entrepreneurial lifestyle.
In conjunction with, exactly. In conjunction with your life.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the key. I think that in entrepreneur folklore, social media, it's all about the big idea and the big passion. I just think that you can be slightly dispassionate about the way you choose your business.
Yeah.
And therefore give yourself a better... I know people who run businesses that they work 60 to 80 hour weeks on, and they might take home a mid-level salary from, because the companies don't make enough margin.
Yeah.
And they're great businesses. They look quite big on the outside, but they might be achieving 3 to 5% margin. And so you think, for that business to meaningfully make a lot of money, it's got to be fucking huge. And do you really want to run a fucking huge organization?
Because there's an interesting thing where I'm really passionate about what we do. You're much less passionate about what you do. And yet we're both just as happy as each other in terms of actually running the businesses.
Sure, yeah.
And you work much less than I do as a result of it, because you don't need to. But it's really interesting. But we're actually both really happy.
I'm quite passionate about the impact my work has on people.
But what are you more passionate about from an outcome point of view? This or Lottie? The impact it can have on people?
On the early days of Lottie, I can say that my brother and I, and he is still like, he is an absolute like passion mission warrior. Like he will take that company to the next level. I believe that in my bones. But like the first few years of that, the thing, if you do find a passion business, it's different to what I'm saying. If you do come across a problem, like we had a problem with our family, couldn't find care, we started a business. 4 years later, it's like 100 people working in the company, valued over 100 million, solving a real fucking problem, lived and breathed it, worked every hour there was of the day. And then I got to a point where I was like, I feel like we've made a dent in this mission. It's probably his to carry on. And so I wouldn't say I'm like unbelievably passionate about my work now. But as you know, I take an enormous amount of time off work.
Yeah.
And don't work as much. And I think that's the key, is that my business provides me exactly what I need for my life.
I think one reflection I've got on my last year, so 2024, like I said, I'd fallen out of love with heights.
Yeah.
And one of the things I had as a goal for 2024, I had various goals, you know, I had egotistical goals like grow LinkedIn to whatever, you know, the boring sort of, you know, setting myself a target, but they're kind of meaningless. One of the goals that I had was fall in love with heights again. And I think it's really, really important. And I absolutely did.
Yeah.
And more to the point, you know, I did this word of the year thing. And like last year, my word of the year was creativity. I think what's really important there is become sort of over analytical about everything and like missteps and, you know, just nerves on what happens if we can't grow, and you start to get defensive rather than offensive, and you're worried about your cash because it's a cash intensive business and all of this stuff. And actually setting out the word creativity was because I'm a creative person at heart and I really enjoy the creative process, and entrepreneurship can really be a creative process. Like for some people it is a mathematical or engineering process, but like at its heart, it's a creative process. You're creating something. Obviously, like over the last couple of years, you've really leaned into this personal brand thing, and I think actually been one of the best examples of it looking like fun, like a hobby, like you were trying to learn from the ground up, the ins and outs of how it works, and really having fun with it. You've turned it into a business.
Yeah.
Is that true? Like, what do you think? Where's the line between hobbies and turning them into businesses?
I mean, I've definitely got an opinion on that. I don't know if mine was a hobby turned business. I think it was very intentionally trying to build a real unfair advantage for myself in the world. And I feel like I've got to a point now where we never need to spend money on marketing, never need to spend money on recruitment. All those things flow to us. And the compound effect of having like optionality is amazing. And then the compound effect of having so much inbound is amazing. And so like having a big audience led to doing a big book deal, which I'm sure will lead to having a bigger audience, which will lead to more and more, you know. And so that work isn't hard. If you systemize it, it's not hard. And so that was always part of the puzzle, which was like, how do you build a business that doesn't require loads and loads and loads of hours? But I do think that like, if you're really passionate about fishing or you're really passionate about something, I wouldn't necessarily think to start a business in it personally, because it might kill the passion for you. And two, you'd have to question, is it a good business? Like, is the thing that you're passionate about a good business, or is it a good hobby? Because I think, again, I know so many entrepreneurs who end up running like 3 or 4 companies, and they're not great companies, and they're super distracting. And I think the skill as you get older, and we were speaking about this at lunch, the skill as you get older and you have more optionality in life and business is saying no to shit.
Yeah.
Like, have a hobby. The amount of entrepreneurs I know, me included, who's like, oh, I love that hotel. Like, I would want to run a hotel.
That's a classic one, isn't it? Or this restaurant.
Exactly, the restaurant.
We've both been tempted to invest in or start a paddle club.
Exactly, and you've got to be brutal with yourself about focus.
Yeah.
Because 10 years focus energy on a problem is the only ingredient to a great business.
Unless you're like Richard Branson, he did such a good job of having a spread of interest and hiring other
But
people
not
to do that.
at the beginning, he didn't.
No, true.
He had the records business.
Yeah.
Built that for basically 10 years, sold it, then he licensed the brand.
That's true.
Yeah. But you won't find, I mean, obviously there's outliers to these rules, but like, you won't find many entrepreneurs who out the gate a few years in were super, super successful.
I suppose like what is the definition of an entrepreneur / creator? Because like you look at these Twitch streamers and gamers on YouTube and stuff, and they're essentially making more money than most entrepreneurs.
Yeah, but how quickly?
Don't know.
As in, like,
I don't watch any of them.
I used to be really into gaming and
Yeah.
watching streamers.
Yeah.
And most of the people who made loads of money were in the game for a long time.
Right.
And even the youngsters who are coming up, they're not making money from streaming. They're making money from competing. And then maybe they can turn that into a streaming career.
Yeah, but I guess my point is that those are hobbies. The hobbies turned into professions.
Well, I think most people now who are gaming early know it's a profession now. So I don't think it's different. But I also do think that, like we've spoken about many times, if you find a great business and you are someone that makes loads of money and you're quite public about it, you like the wave of people who flock to it will be massive. And so in streaming and gaming and so forth, the saturation levels must be doing that. As in, like, the amount of people flocking to it and therefore the amount people can make from it going down must be happening. And it's obviously like a great example. There's so many of these, like, this is basically the definition of like overnight success. But Jinxie, the streamer who became like the top streamer in the world, there's a great clip of him calling his dad. He talks to his dad about, like, you know, becoming the biggest streamer in the world. But he also talks about how for 3 years he streamed to 1 viewer. And so it's like, can you call him, you know, an overnight success? It's like, no, he was honing his craft for years and years and years.
Totally. And, you know, there's the other side of this is, if you do professionalize your hobby, you risk falling out of love with it because it becomes a business. And all businesses have stresses. They have ups and downs, and you get obsessed about the metrics and numbers, and you need to professionalize it. It's not really a hobby at that point.
Yeah.
You know, that's the argument against it. Like, all of my hobbies are really nothing to do with my business.
Yeah.
And I think that's really healthy. Like, at the end of the day, the things that I love creatively outside of work, I keep outside of work, and there's definitely a temptation to merge them. But I've always been fearful that I'll just fall out of love with them, and you need an outlet.
But I'm so glad that I never did anything with paddle. And I'm
tennis.
Yeah. I'm so glad I did nothing with tennis. And I really got close to. I think it would have killed it. I'd stop loving the tennis, and I'd think about, like, the tennis club operations. Like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing with, like, travel. I love travel, and I love hotels. I reckon if I ran a hotel, it would just be an efficient business.
Yeah.
And boring.
Yeah, totally.
And I certainly wouldn't want to stay in that fucking hotel.
And when you go to other hotels, you would just be thinking about all
Your
the things.
hotel.
Yeah, exactly. And you wouldn't actually just be able to just enjoy being in a hotel.
Exactly.
Yeah, as a good example, I used to really enjoy talking to you, and now it's work. So
Yeah. So obviously, like, I knew you from watching the show, but I also knew you as the guy who ran the kind of, like, unknown secret founders club, is kind of what I thought from the outside. Never got an invite. Can you believe that? Unbelievable.
I can believe
that. But yeah, exactly. And as I've got to know you over the years, obviously now finally got invited when we started doing a podcast together. My God. I now know what Founders is, and it is the most phenomenal community of, like, genuine, transparent, incredible founders who try and help each other, and, like, not too woo-woo, but just very nice. And if you are a founder, it's an unbelievable community to be part of. But I would say for you, that, like, is passion crossover business territory for sure. Because I can't imagine you're like, Founders is my most successful business ever, but it is a business and you own it, and it's like a passion project. Yeah,
that's the really challenging and interesting one, because by design, unfindable. We don't market it on purpose. Impossible to get into. And I'm on purpose disintermediated away from the application process. So I can't personally invite people anymore. There's a memberships committee. The guy that runs the memberships committee runs a £70 million a year like tuition education business essentially.
Oh yeah, he's a dude.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Want to know what kills big deals faster than anything? Security compliance. Honestly, it's a headache, and I don't know anyone who likes doing it. But there is a solution. One that makes security compliance easy. Vanta. Think of Vanta as your compliance wizard. They automate everything for SOC 2 and ISO 27001, turning complex security requirements into a simple, streamlined process. Over 8,000 companies, from startups to giants, trust Vanta to handle their compliance. Use Vanta so you don't get slowed down by security paperwork and focus on what matters, growing your business. Visit vanta.com/secret leaders now and get $1,000 off your first year.
Yeah.
We have like exceptional people at every level. Like the person who runs product and Founders was the managing director of Stripe in Europe, the first ever employee for Stripe in the whole of Europe. Like it's just insane entrepreneurs, like, as you've met, and and I'm not naming them on purpose. So it's been an incredible experience of finding, I think, Britain's most inspiring, ambitious, scale-up entrepreneurs who have tons of heart. And I think, being really honest, when Richard Harpin was talking to us about what he's doing with Business Leader and stuff, there's a lot of crossovers, right? The stuff that he was talking about, was essentially tribes as a product, 8 people meeting once a month, yada, yada, yada. We have a product like that, etc., etc. But his is all focused on money, £8,000 to join, and this is the outcome that you get, and etc. So I think it's very good as well, by the way. I think the whole thing makes loads of sense. And ours is not about money. It is about who you are. And once you make things about money specifically, you kind of lose your opportunity to be like, yeah, but what's your character like? Are you actually someone that's going to help someone else? So we are insanely cagey about who we let in. We only let in, in the last 3 years, we've let in 60 founders in 3 years.
Wow.
And so that gives you a good idea of we're just not interested in having the world's biggest community or anything, but we are interested in having a phenomenal group of outrageously cool people. What I will say about it though is it's in its 11th year.
Wow.
Yeah. And it all started innocently as a dinner. It's a not-for-profit. So I've literally never taken a penny out of it. Not a single penny ever.
You put a lot in.
I put a lot in. So me and my best friend, Rob, who now lives in LA, we started it together. We both put in, at one point we were both down about 20 grand. And over time, that sort of evened back out. I've now been paid back fully. He's still owed about 10 grand. So to give you an idea, it's not exactly a good business. And it's never been about that at all. It's literally always just been super focused on purpose. So the question of turning a hobby into, okay, so for me, that's literally where I spend all my time. Someone literally messaged me on Instagram a few days ago being like, do you want to catch up for dinner in a few weeks, whatever. I was like, I don't have time. In 2025, the only things I'm doing are founders related things or stuff for Heights of Secret Leaders. I'm not, because I don't need to. I've got hundreds of friends, literally hundreds of amazing friends. And you know these guys as well now, right? You know how great they are. They're the people we want to spend time with anyway. They're super inspiring, really authentic, very funny, don't take themselves too seriously, doing incredible things. They're the people I want to spend my time with anyway. I don't have time for loads of other lunches or dinners or schmooze. Forget it. So actually for me, as I go through a period of my life where I'm scaling businesses, I have less time, I want to be a more present dad, all of the things, it also helps focus. So it's interesting because it's a bad business, but it is actually a really helpful way to frame how I spend my time and where I spend my time and who with. So I think it's been a really meaningful use of my time. But my God, is that not a good business? We were talking about this at lunch. We both said, so I'm sure you'll say the same thing, the art of saying no. I felt so empowered to just look at that message I got in the DMs and be like, no, sorry, I'm not doing that. I'm just doing founder stuff this year and the essentials for my business. Other than that, it's a no.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm going to try and leave behind just this year, doesn't mean every year, but this year is that people-pleasing side of me where I'm like, oh, I should see them. I should go and do that. I'm going to sort of just leave behind the should and just focus on what I need for this year, which is just as much of my time back as possible.
Yeah. That is, I can't not agree with you. I'm leaving behind my previous life of entrepreneurship, which sounds really silly and dramatic, but
No, that's an amazing statement.
I have a rule now, which is I work 4 days a week, no more than 7 hours in a day, and I work 10 months a year. And then that takes quite a lot of organization to do that and to do all the business commitments and everything. But I feel like at the moment, that means taking Wednesday off, which is very strange for an entrepreneur to be like, I'm off on Wednesday. And what are you off doing? I'm playing paddle, playing tennis, seeing friends, running, hanging with Lou. And I feel like those things are so important to me now that my business is going to work around me. Whereas I have worked around my business for 16 years. And so I want the businesses to work around me. I'm unapologetic about it. I'm thankful because obviously I own all the companies I work for. Yep. So that helps. And so that is going to be my main focus this year. I still think I can build probably the best business I've ever built this year. And I feel like by the end of this year, I'll have surpassed anything I've ever done before. I've just had a book deal, but all of that stuff has to fit the framework. Otherwise, I just don't feel like I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that I really respect that. I think that's great.
We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, of course. And like, there will always be exceptions. There will be the
Yeah.
occasional thing you have to on a Wednesday and all of that stuff,
Exactly.
of course. But I think if this is very similar to when my daughter Margot was born, I was like, I'm doing bedtime and bath times. 6 p.m. comes, I'm done.
What, yeah.
Yeah, I'm done. So 6:15, I'll start to do her dinner and I'll do her bath time, and I'm with her till 9, basically. She goes to bed later and later because another story. But like, whatever, from 6 till 9, I'm with my daughter. I never said I'm not going to work again after 9. I wasn't saying I won't. Some days I need to, but most days I don't. And the work gets done actually by 6. But there are always going to be exceptions to the rule. And I think what's important in the journey of entrepreneurship as you go through life in different seasons, as they say, is that you're not a slave to your commitment, but the commitment is a framework. So I've done 95% of all the bedtimes and bath times as a result of my commitment. And the 5% that I'm like, you know what, I've got too much on tonight, babe, I am just going to work through it. That's a one-off. It's a one-off. I know it's a one-off. Otherwise, you know what we're like. Without the rules, it's just going to be 100% 24/7. Yeah, totally. And it doesn't help. It doesn't make you a better entrepreneur.
I would actually say that is, and I actually don't think entrepreneurs are that unique from each other. I think that if left to our own devices,
You'll just work all the time.
without good framework, without good
And
structure,
the work will be shit.
Yeah, but you will just work through. And I am that person. I have been that person my whole life. And I know that if I don't, like, a big part of the book I'm writing is about intentionality around frameworks. It's about like putting systems in place in your life so that you have boundaries. And I feel like this year coming is me really putting to a test my boundaries. Because otherwise, I know me, like I can get caught in work, and not because I'm have to work, but because I'm obsessive about work, that I'll work.
Yeah, you love work.
Yeah, from 9 a.m. through till 3 a.m. and be like, oh, fucking hell, it's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And I will have that all the time. And so now it's like putting alarms in place. The alarms will have like names, like having focused days, days where I don't work. And if I can stick to it, I feel like I will be a better entrepreneur because it makes you think more as opposed to work more. And I think that's a way better outcome.
Yeah, I love that. What's something you're leaving in 2024?
For those very close to me know that I managed to wrap up a big legal case I've been working on forever.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was to do with my exit. I was a bad leaver and now I'm a good leaver. It's an incredibly complex, long case that I cannot talk about. But leaving that behind for me, I can't even tell you that was something that lived inside me. It was something that just lived deep inside me about a fight I was having. It went on forever. And now that it's done, the moment it finished, I remember going and lying on Peckham Rye and being like, what am I going to do with all this free time? And I recommitted to, can I play sport every day? And I pretty much play sport every day now.
That's amazing.
Which is amazing. And it can be anything as simple as on the days that I struggle to get a game together, I'll ask one of the coaches in my local tennis if they're free and on WhatsApp, and they will just play with me for 45 minutes. And it's like, I'm very, very committed to exercising every day and only 45 minutes. And at the moment I'm doing it. It probably doesn't show, but I eat a lot. But I am actually keeping to exercising every day. And if I could keep that up for a year, I will be so proud of myself. I can't even tell you.
Yeah, okay. So mine will probably have to be especially relevant because it's January and how much I struggle with this. At the end of last year, I decided I was going to start bulking. I've read all the books on longevity and stuff, and basically I'd got myself into just too weedy a position from doing too much cardio and too much yoga and not enough strength training and lifting. And then when I do that, so I got myself into the gym side of it, I just can't get myself into the diet side of it because I grew up fat. So I find it very uncomfortable
And
to
you don't
eat a
eat
lot.
meat.
And I don't eat meat. So I started at the end of 2024 eating chicken, which has helped a lot with the protein.
to
Yeah,
bulk?
just for that. Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah. My big challenge is just trusting the process because I've been putting on weight, and admittedly, like I'm stronger in the gym and it's working, but I'm also getting fatter.
Yeah.
And there's nothing someone who grew up fat hates less than seeing that.
Right.
And so I need to just power through the little negative voice in my head and remember the longer term reason why I'm doing it.
Bulking is about often looking a bit fatter, isn't it?
No, I
Yeah.
understand that, but like I can barely handle that psychologically.
Yeah.
You
I do
know?
remember that from like I used to play a lot of rugby, and if you were in pre-season, everyone was quite. They were very stocky, very unaesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
But and you see this in professional sport. Before the season of something like tennis, they all get much bigger, much musclier, because throughout the year it's impossible to keep up that amount of bulking. So I think the acceptance that if you are bulking up, you can't look defined at the same time.
Yeah, so I'd like to carry on that process, but also commit to, 5 days a week in the gym.
We should talk to Jay. Have you seen Jay's arms? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a good example of someone who looks good whilst bulking.
Yeah. Is he permanently bulking?
I've been bulking for years.
Yeah.
This is natural, baby.
I tried to cut once, and
Yeah.
it was so painful. It was so arduous to
Yeah.
lose weight. I found it so difficult.
I'd find that a lot easier
I-
psychologically.
Honestly, can't handle not eating.
Really?
It's, and you. This
I
is-
love the
you know,
fast.
do you know, it's called Ozempic.
Ozempic.
Right, I was thinking about that recently. I was like, it'd be so nice if I wasn't like roundish. I would like to be really lean for a bit. And then I read that one of the side effects is that you no longer taste the food and you no longer feel hunger.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I was suddenly like, what's my favorite thing in the world? My favorite thing fundamentally is eating.
Yeah.
I love eating and drinking with friends. I think it's my favorite activity there is. My wife always mocks me for it. And if I took that drug, I would trade to have maybe a more skinny, lean physique, but I would lose like being hungry and eating. And I just don't know if I could make that
Nah,
trade.
it's kind of stupid, isn't it? I'm with you.
What's something that you want to bring into 2025?
I think it's definitely worth saying. I've got like 3 businesses that I'm the founder of, right? So at the start of last year, I'd fallen out of love with Secret Leaders. I was
Until now.
exactly. Let me say it though.
Yeah, you said it.
I was really struggling with founders, mostly from a financial point of view. It was just a black hole that I kept on having to pour money into. And Heights wasn't going well. And if I look at what happened in 2024, literally restarted Secret Leaders with you, my friend, and like we're having loads of fun. We're in a studio. It's kind of an amazing turnaround. Like I'm so motivated and fallen back in love with it, which is so nice. Heights tripled, so like unbelievable success.
Heights is phenomenal.
Yeah, so unbelievable success last year. And Founders is being run by an exceptional team. We're finally back in a very healthy position. I'm not personally having to fund it. In fact, I just get to sort of turn up and enjoy it now. It couldn't possibly be in a better space for me like to enjoy. So I think it would be greedy to ask for anything more in 2025 than those 3 businesses continuing in that direction, whatever it works out. Because I would have traded anything a year ago to feel good about any one of those 3. To have all 3 in such a good spot, I just want to continue that feeling without kind of jinxing anything.
Yeah. I like that.
What about you?
Continuation.
Yeah, continuation of appreciation for how it's gone. I guess if I could ask for one thing, it would be tons more subscribers on YouTube. So
Breaking the fourth wall.
pretty please subscribe to us on YouTube.
And also another reason that you should subscribe is to obviously follow Dan's bulking journey.
Yeah, and the camera adds £10. So if
he bulks up.
Yeah, you can just add a few more cameras so it looks like I'm bulking.
Yeah. So thank you very much for watching. Happy New Year's to everyone that's watching. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube and give us 5 stars on all the audio channels. And in the new year, in looking to be your best self, make sure that you're very deliberate about what you choose to do with your time. And if you're looking for business advice, obviously you're in the right place.
Yeah, you should be following every word on Secret Leaders. But obviously, if you've got specific questions, then, well, probably don't message us. Message Simon Squibb. He always seems really open to having those thousands of DMs. I'll ask him, but subscribe to us.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Thanks very much.